And welcome to the Berean Sports Podcast, brought to you by the Berean Sports Network. Today we have a very special guest with us today, Coach Kevin Green of the Berean Christian School football team and basketball team is going to be with us on the podcast today. And Coach Kevin Green, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. I'm blessed for the opportunity, and go Bulldogs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go Bulldogs. So I just kind of wanted to start today's podcast off with a little bit of background. So I know you've been with Berean for a couple of years, and so I just wanted to start off with kind of where you're from and what got you into sports when you were young, and kind of go from there. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
No problem. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, way up north. Man, I've been playing football since I was 6. And ever since, I laid eyes on it and see my dad doing it, I always wanted to do it. It's in me. So I've been blessed and fortunate to get great coaching with it and understand how much it helps you in your everyday life. And I love being a part of a team, and that's how I just stuck with it, man. I did it all the way up to high school, Pop Warner, and then did high school. Played for a great program, Frankfort High School. Had a couple NFL guys, so it just made me believe, and I just stuck with it. And being as though that I stuck with it, became a great athlete. It's not easy, I can tell you that. It's one of the reasons why I love coaching now, to get through all your trials and endeavors and see goals completed. It means a lot. You have to really know the challenge to go through, and one of the biggest challenges is your faith. So that's what led me here, and that is what allows me to give back.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's a great little history there. I mean, I know that we've talked a lot about kind of where you're from and how that influences your perspective on athletics and everything like that. But I think you skipped over a small piece of your athletic career, which is playing basketball professionally overseas.
Yes.
Why don't you just talk to us a little bit about that and kind of maybe walk us through what the kind of trip was from going from high school sports to then playing in college to then going to the pros, and just kind of walking us through that process. I know we have a lot of students who are interested, obviously, in playing at the next level.
Yes.
And that's something that you've done and had success with, and
yes.
So just kind of how, what that process looked like for you.
Yes, first of all, I'm always trying to be very humble. So it's a humbling experience, right? That process started really young. Again, it's about believing. So I had this thing about believing, and you'll always hear the numbers when it comes about playing a Division I, being a Division I athlete, of that 1%. So it's not easy. Everybody, that's one saying that we had. Everybody's not going to make it. And trust me, I've seen guys more talented than me just not make it just because they didn't have it mentally. But I played all the way through high school when it came to football, and I went to, I had one offer basically coming out of high school to do a prep school year or to go to a military school and do a prep year. And that was Valley Forge Military Academy. And I was weighing the two, and only one gave me a scholarship for both football and basketball. So I chose to not play football in college or prep, to just go with basketball. And when I went through that, it was really a calling on me. At that time, that was when I was introduced to Christ, and I really had to be about believing in myself. I really had to get my confidence up. I had to understand what that meant, to go through that, because I didn't have any college offers. All I knew was I got the work ethic down packed now. I understand that I need to be in the gym or, waking up early, doing extra work. I understood what that meant at that time. So when I did it for basketball, it was a really hard decision, actually, because I was better in football than I was in basketball. Most people don't know that. But I was better. I was a better football player at the time. But I went through it as far as for basketball. And then I got a scholarship to come play junior college down at Santa Fe Community College. I played, was all conference. We was number 3 in the country. Then I went to Florida Atlantic. And now I became that 1 to 3% that go to college, and that 1% that play Division I basketball. And I understood quickly how much you have to invest in your everyday life. I also went through my first adversity. I tore my meniscus like the first day of practice. And that was really tough for me because I never been through an injury like that. So I got it repaired, but I came back that season. And it was extremely hard. It was extremely hard. And that's when you understand, I think, that's when I understood me fully about the mental preparation. Where was I going to be at? Where was I mentally? But came back. We had a strong season at FAU. I had to go finish up at Texas. My coach had left, of course. And so I had to finish up. That's another thing of adversity and just staying ready. Like, at the end of the day, you're going to go through the valley. You know, it's going to be dark. Mm-hmm. But I was glad that I was introduced to Christ, that I understood about faith.
Yeah, I think just kind of taking that perspective for a moment around, I mean, that means you played at 4 different places.
Yeah.
Yeah, in college, right? So you
yeah.
played at 4 different places. So I think a lot of athletes have the perspective of, okay, I need to get my big offer now when I'm in high school as a junior,
right,
so that I can go and I can sign with the big SEC school or whatever, and then I can stay there all 4 years and commit, and then that can get me to the pros, whereas there are so many different paths on playing at the next level. It's about, do you love the game? Okay. And like you said, I mean, you now also played all over the country. You were from Philly, then you ended up down in Florida, moved to Texas, and then you went all over the place for the pros. Yes. And so really it's about, do you love the game? Do you want to play? Do you want to make this a career? Do you want to make this your next step to getting your education? Like, is that what you want this to be? Or is this just kind of something fun that you want to do kind of on the side and making that decision as a student? So
absolutely. And you must be able to adapt. So once I understood that, it just came down to simple: always staying ready, always having your faith. Mm-hmm. And when I understood that, there's nothing else that could come in between that. Like, so I'm always staying ready for anything. I was able to adapt to anything. And being as though that I did that, when I got to the pros, it was easy to adapt to any playbook. I can run any system because I already had experience with it. And being as though that I was always a good kid. I'm always coachable. It's just whatever circumstances happen, that's what happens. So every coach I got along with. I fit in any system. I was adaptable. It was just like that. I could go anywhere and fit in. And I thought that helped me. I didn't think that it hurt me or looked bad or anything. I thought that it helped me. It made me well-versed, that I could get through any situation by just being ready and sharp mentally and always being prepared. So that was big for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, being a team player and coaches seeing that, like you said, sometimes there is somebody who can be more talented, but maybe he's not a team player, is not a good fit, can't make the grades. I mean, there's a million other things that you have to be able to do to play. And coaches are looking at the full package and saying, okay, is this somebody who's reliable for me? Or is this somebody who I'm going to have to always watch their back? And then if that's the case, are they good enough for me to have to watch their back all the time? And not many people fit that mold.
Right,
so.
Right. And that is the difference.
Yeah.
That is the difference.
Yep.
That's are you worth the risk or are you not worth the risk?
Exactly. Exactly.
So that was a cool part for me.
All right. We're going to take a second to thank our sponsors.
Yes.
So let's do that.
Yes.
We'd like to thank our sponsor, Berean Christian School, where we empower, enrich, and help our students experience Jesus Christ. If you're looking for a great school, Berean Christian School sponsors the podcast, obviously, and we're big fans of it. And so if that's something you're interested in, please reach out to the admissions office.
Amen.
All right, so jumping back on it. So, all right, so you're finishing up at Texas, you said?
Yeah, West Texas A&M.
Yep, West Texas A&M.
West Texas A&M.
There you go. And so what is the next step from that? So you're at college, you're finishing up your last year. When does the initial conversation happen of, would you be interested in doing this at the next level? Does anybody come and talk to you about that? Do you go and seek other people out? Like, how does that go?
Oh man, now that is what becomes real interesting. So I did really well my senior year at West Texas A&M, and then you get invited. I got invited to a couple combines. Actually, I flew down here actually at the time. I talked to a guy that was a couple teams from Columbia at that time, and then I wound up talking to my mentor. So this is again going around just being a good person, go a long way. I had a mentor that mentored me a lot. And by the way, when you go to college, get a mentor. When you're a professional, get a mentor. When you're in grade school, get a mentor. You always need a mentor to help you through.
Yep.
No matter who that is, you should get one. But I had a mentor in college who played in the pros for over 20 years. And he seen me working out, and he was like, you know what, I'm gonna help you. And at that time, my son was just born my senior year. So my son was just born, and I was torn between, do I leave or do I just stay? And he was like, man, listen, you too good to stay. So he made a phone call for me, and then I got a phone call at like 5 o'clock in the morning. Hey, can you get down to Mexico? So I had to leave the next day. Went down there, started my pro career in Mexico first. Enjoyed it, got better, and then got an invite to work out for an agent in Philadelphia. Flew over there, worked out, and then from there I worked out for the Spurs. From there I worked out for Charlotte. I believe they was the Charlotte Hornets at the time. Got a couple workouts with the Mavs G League team, and then from there, then it was, hey man, you might need to go over to Europe. It might be time. So then I went, and by the way, I bought my own ticket to go overseas. I went over there, did really well, and then again, this was the everyday preparation of being ready. Being ready through college, it got me ready for the pros. And when you get to the pros, it's more of a business thing of how you conduct business. And lucky for me, I had an agent at the time that did really well for me. And so my preparation was awesome. My mentor was awesome. And then the story went from there, man. Did a really good job. The only thing that cut it short was after 3 years of playing, I wound up getting into my car accident, and then it led me to coaching and giving back from there. So that's just how it started and how it can end. But just always being prepared mentally and physically is what got me to the next step all the time.
That's awesome. That's
Yes.
awesome. So I think kind of that's an amazing story. And taking it back for a second, I know
Yeah.
you mentioned talking about your experience with Christ.
Yes.
And if you want to just touch on that for a minute and just kind of give us a little bit about your testimony of where you said you encountered Christ in college and built a relationship with him there, just what that experience was like.
Well, first thing first, I got it from my grandma. I could say that I was raised in an untraditional like home. I was really raised a lot by my grandparents at first, and in the city of Philadelphia, it was a lot of, let's just say, chaos, right, to say the least. But my grandmother always showed unconditional love. Like, it was always cool. My grandfather fought in 2 wars, so it was military in there. And then when my grandfather got really sick, like, I watched her care for him. He died in the house. And I always just thought that was cool. I don't know. You with the same woman for over 55 years. You die in the same house.
Yep.
I just thought that was cool. But to see what my grandmother did in the community and to learn history of what my grandfather did in the community and see those things, it led me to know that Christ will protect his own. He will always protect his own. No matter what you guys are going through, Christ is always there. And so I learned to install that in me, and understand that a right, wrong, you always fight the good fight. You always understand God is with you, and you always go for it. Always. Don't let anything hold you back because he has you.
Yep.
And I feel like as long as I have that installed in my heart, as long as it's been installed in my heart, that's always been the way to go, period. So that was installed in me at a young age. And then once I got even higher from just doing it, just locking in, always peaks of my life when it's just locked into just me and God, I've always known that that's been the best route, period. So my father is like that, and kudos to him. He's always been in my ear about that. And, man, he just showed you time after time after time again. So we have an awesome God.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I think it's awesome because a lot of times people, especially in today's world, get caught up in just making decisions based out of fear.
Yes.
And just, okay, well, this could happen, that could happen. Well, let me just do nothing. And, we have, what seems to be an anxiety epidemic with the kids and just everything. And it's like, what a empowering, loving message that the gospel of Christ is for those students to say, nope, God's got you. He's been faithful throughout history, and he's faithful now. And he's going to be faithful, in the small things. We consider them small, just like of stress of having school and things like that, to the big things of loss of family members and going through that, that God's going to have you through it. So,
yes. The most fascinating thing.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, so kind of getting back to sports here. So let's talk through the transition from high school to college. What would be some advice you'd have for a athlete in today's world, trying to move to the next level? Obviously, people are at different skill levels here, right? So there might be different advice for different skill levels and expectations. But what is just some good generic advice as someone who's taken that leap and done that a couple different times at different levels? What is kind of your basic level of advice for those people?
Always do more. Do not do the basic requirement. The basic requirement is the basic requirement. Separate yourself. Want more. Do more. That would be the golden gem right there. That is the most hidden gem. Always do more.
Separate yourself.
Separate yourself.
Separate yourself from the crowd.
That's it. That's it. No distractions. Blind, the folders on so you can see straight, and separate yourself.
Separate yourself. That leads us into our next sponsorship here.
Here we go.
So, if you'd like to separate yourself in the sport of basketball specifically, check out Brotherly Love Academy. It's a sponsor of today's podcast, actually run by our special guest today, Coach Kevin Green. For more information, reach out to Coach Kevin Green through his email or through his phone, or reach out to our athletic office and we can get you in touch with him as well. And if you're interested, please reach out. Awesome. All right, so let's dive into the football season this year. So this is going to be your first year coaching varsity football here at Berean Christian School.
Yes.
How are you feeling?
Excited. Super excited. Super excited about giving back. Super excited about building a culture, a foundation. Super excited to see what these kids are going to turn out to be. When you're starting something new, you're going to have so many naysayers. Oh, this can't be done. This is not going to be done. And bit by bit, you get to see those heads get to turn around. Like, I never thought it would be done. They couldn't imagine it. But again, that's another testimony to show you got to understand what type of God we got and what type of God is behind us. So when you come with that type of energy and that type of force, and you always staying prepared, always being humble, and you able to give that off to these kids and help them to believe, that's when you see a big wave of change. So I'm excited to give that back and get a group of believers. and see a group of believers out there.
Absolutely, because, I mean, as you know, football has not been our strong suit. In recent years. We've struggled a bit in scheduling other things, obviously.
Right.
COVID happened the last couple of years, so part of it's that. But there's been a struggle, and so there is a, I would say, how do I say this nicely? There is a expectation of not being very successful. And so let's take a second. This is not your first time coaching football at Berean Christian School, right? No. So at this level, yes, but not the first time.
Right.
So why don't you talk us through your football kind of coaching history at the school over the last couple of years?
Well, when I first came in, I was just, thinking that it was about to be coaching the basketball team. And then the next day, shout out to Coach Jackson. Coach Jackson tapped me on the shoulder and was like, I don't know why, but God tapped me on the shoulder today and placed something in my heart. Like, he told me you should be the middle school football coach. And I was like, what? I almost walked out on Coach Jackson. Hold on, what? So it never crossed my mind. And then he said it. And then I really had to go home, digest it, and understand that, okay, it's a calling. Maybe you got the hint, and I'm going to accept it. And when I did, gathering these boys, right, on that first team. I don't know if you remember Big Baby, right?
Oh,
Big
yeah.
Baby
Come
had
on.
one of the most
Of course.
inspirational stories to me. But it was so many guys. But it was so many guys on that team that used to get bullied and really go through some things in their life, in their past. They really had some past things that we had to really get out. And they were young at the time. So it was like, to hear this from our young boys, we got to change that, right? We got to start to change this mindset. And this was the first middle school team.
Yeah, and just to give people an expectation of like ages here, so this is 6th, 7th, and 8th graders.
Yes.
And so you're talking about 11 to maybe 13, like maybe.
Right.
And so, you're talking about young, really young men who are in their early formative years of trying to decide, who am I, what do I believe, what are my expectations of the world, and starting there. And so you're dealing with a lot of fluctuations in personality and all those things. So.
Yes. So we had to get them to turn that curve to understand about believing. And I believe it took that game after the fall break. I don't know if you remember that. We didn't practice or anything, and we lost. We lost to, I'm not even going to say the school name. We lost, okay? And we got a chance to really talk and really come together. Yeah. And when we did that, the team believed, and 5-1 season, which was an awesome year. And then the following year, they came in rolling even more. And, I mean, that was the peak. Like, they all came together. They all understood. They all knew what they wanted to do. And you could see the change in momentum just of the school from them young guys. And that was big until last year, where a lot of new guys came because the program was doing so well. We maxed out. Like we couldn't even give any more helmets out, which is a blessing to God to show you what he's doing. He's multiplying the fruit, and it's awesome. It's an awesome thing. And then last year, we really had to do it all over again of bringing the kids up and talking to them about believing and believing in themselves, believing in God, and what does that mean, especially on the football field, and how to be great teammates to each other. After the first game, they started to understand that. And then they came out and they had an explosion last year at the right time, and it was good for them. So I believe that it just showed you the blueprint of coaching. It's not always about do you coach this and coaching this sport? How do you do both? I think as it's just coaching. It's still motivating. It's still being there and mentoring and letting them know that we're there for them, and also letting them know how to believe and be good teammates to each other. It carry them a long way. That's how they become fundamentally sound.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that, like you said, a lot of it has to do with momentum, right, from year one to year two and moving forward. And so, you got your work cut out for you this year. You got your work cut out for you this year of trying to create that momentum. Yes. But we definitely have a lot of things, I would say, working in our favor, right? So we have the new field house, right? So we have the workout facility that's being renovated currently and continuing to be improved all the time. So we do have a place for them to start lifting weights. We also have our brand new football field on campus for all of our home games.
Shout out to Dean Hendricks for this football field. If you have not seen this football field, get out here, come down here, come see it. It is awesome to see. The grass is awesome. But the fun part is, again, when you're talking about visions, is seeing it come through piece by piece. So right now, you just have 2 pieces of the goalpost up.
Yes.
Right? And you got the field painted, but you can see the vision. If you take time out, you can see the vision. If you close your eyes and start to pray on it while you do it, that's what I've been doing lately. Right? You don't even know it, bless your heart. Right? But I get to pray over it, okay? And I see the vision. I see it. Dean, you're doing an excellent job.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm very, very excited to get to be a part of the first football teams that are able to play on our campus. You know, I was actually on the first varsity football team that Berean had when they came back.
Look at this.
Originally, yeah, a little bit of my history.
Right.
And so, so I was on the first varsity team. They had a JV team before me in 06, 07, 08, 09. I came in as a freshman and was on the first varsity team. And it was tough building from those foundations. And I think some lessons that I learned from that translated into real life. Why don't you talk a little bit about what foundations we're hoping to instill in the young men of this varsity football program that they can move forward with, regardless of what the scores are, regardless of what our ending season record is. This is really a year of building foundations and kind of talking through what are our expectations of the guys from this team that we can help them to grow as not just football players, but also as men of God?
Oh, it's simple. I mean, what they got to do is they got to look around at the history that we're talking about. Think about how you sacrificed being on that first team and having to build everything up. And they got some good out of that. And then most importantly, what they got out of it is they got you years later as an AD. So they came back full circle just with that alone. But one of the things that I am going to install with them is basically, man, listen, you always got to shine God light. We do this to shine God's light. God has given us everything we need to shine his light and speak his wisdom on the kingdom. If you do those things and then believe in yourself, you have that installment of it. And then you'll be allowed to believe your teammates next to you and trust. Hey, you're going to be so fundamentally sound in that it's going to be easy to teach you football. It's going to be easy to have you fundamentally sound once you buy into the culture. And then we can sit back and continue to watch this thing grow. As far as the varsity, we'll sit back and watch it grow. Not just sit back, but be there in intense situations, be there while we go into battle. God will be there as well. And we just got to know those things. You must know those basics before we can get into the football basics. And once you do that, we're going to be a tough juggernaut to mess with. So that's the plan.
That is the plan. That is the plan. Yes. So we're excited about it. We're going to go ahead and thank our last sponsor of this podcast, which is Grace Fellowship Church, a church for all nations. For those of you who don't know, Grace Fellowship Church is the parent organization over Berean Christian School. And Berean Christian School is seen as a ministry of the church. And we believe that that's what we are. We are a ministry of the church. And by direction, that means that athletics is also a ministry. And so we believe in representing Christ through everything that we do in Berean athletics. And we just want to say thank you to Grace Fellowship Church for always supporting us. So, all right, Coach. Last thing we're going to touch on. Let's talk about our first game, September the 1st. So September the 1st, varsity football, first home game is against a school that some people may consider a high-level school, Oxbridge, right? So some people say, well, why are we playing Oxbridge? Well, to give everybody a little bit of background, Oxbridge has not had a football team for a number of years due to some things that happened in the past with some of the past administration. And they're coming back, and this is their first year back in football. And so we're having them on our field on September 1st for our first home game. And why don't you talk a little bit about, just kind of what people should expect at that event and just how excited we all are about that.
We're stoked about opening up on our home field September 1st, which should be a fun event. We should definitely have the bells out, definitely have the tiles out going. That's going to be exciting to see. As far as Oxbridge go, I guess it's an opportunity to rekindle that little fun warfare right there, a little fun fan duel, right? Let's get that back in the mix. Bless them for getting their organization, getting their school back off the ground and being able to have a football program. I'm glad God is with them through that. I'm sure they're going to come here ready to play football, ready to win.
Absolutely.
And our job is to have our guys prepared. And that's part of it. Hey, it's your first game. So that'll be part of their history. And let's go out and have some fun, man. Let's go. Go Dogs. I'm pumped up. That's why we out there every morning now.
Exactly.
Let's get it. Let's
go. Yeah, very excited. And I'm glad they were able to get it back together. I know that they're very excited about bringing football back, and so are we. So we're excited about September 1st being the first home game for us. And hopefully all of you will join us on September 1st. And so we will be sending out more information in regards to the full football schedule. And you can go out anytime, and we'd love to see y'all out there and help us support Berean Christian football. So, Coach, I appreciate it.
All the time. Go Dogs.
Absolutely. Go Bulldogs.
Yes.
All right. Thank y'all for jumping in.